in surds, you need to know all these things: how to simplify, how to add and subtract, how to multiply surds, how to expand double brackets, how to rationalize. There are two different kinds of rationalizing. So not two different kind, but you have to rationalize two different type of expressions, and they're done differently. All right, so simplifying surds is like, for example, you have something like 120. You break this down, try to get a square number times anything. So we know that 4 times 30 gives us 112. So you can split that into square root 4 times square root 30. Okay, and then square root 4 is 2. Square root 30 is just 30. You cannot simplify that further because you don't have a square number that multiplies to give you 30. So like 1 and 30 gives you 30, 2 and 15 gives you 30, 3 and 10, and then 5 and 6. So none of them are square numbers, so you won't be able to simplify it further. So that's the simplest it can be. That's simplifying surds. Add and subtract means like you have 5 square root 5, add 2 square root 3 minus square root 3 plus 3 square root 5. So it's just like algebra, like you know your x and y terms. Imagine the square root 5 is your x terms and square root 3 is your y terms. So you can add and subtract like terms. So here the square root 5 and anything with square root 5 there you like terms, so you can add them. Like how do you know you need to add them or subtract them? You look at the symbol in front of the term. So here this is positive, so there's a plus in front of it, so it's a positive square root 5. And then you want to because you know, in front of this square root 5 you have a plus, so that's why it's a plus 3 square root 5. And then these two are your other like terms, so you have a 2 square root 3. There's a plus in front of it, so put the plus here, and you have 1 square root 3, and there's a minus in front of it, so you put a minus here. So 1 square root 5 add 3 square root 5 is 4 square root 5, and 2 square root 3, so positive 2 square root 3 minus 1 square root 3, you end up with a positive 1 square root 3. So you only add and subtract your like terms. And then we have multiply surds. So if you have like square root 3 times square root 4 times square root let's say 40, right? So you can multiply all of them, so that becomes 3 times 4 times 40. You can put them all under one square root, okay? And then 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 40 will be 480. Now you can't just leave surds as they are, you need to simplify it. So we need to simplify this, so maybe we can break it down into any square number we can think of that multiplies with something to give us 480. Now I think of 4, so 4 times 120 gives me 480, but I can break down the 120 into smaller numbers as well as square numbers. So 4 times 30. Okay, so if you break it down, so square root 4 times square root 4 times square root 30, you get 2 times 2 times square root 30, and then 2 times 2 is 4, so it's 4 square root 30. Okay, that's how you multiply surds. So if you have a surd multiplied with another surd, you can just put them all under one square root. All right, expanding double brackets, so something like 3 minus square root 2 times 4 plus square root, let's say 12. Yeah, 12. Okay, so expand them. So 3 times 4 is 12 minus 4 square root 2 plus 3 square root 12, and then it will be minus square root 12 times square root 2. Okay, so let's simplify. So this is 4 square root 2, and then this square root 12 can be broken down into 4 times 3. Okay, and a minus, and then this 12, square root 12 and square root 2 can be simplified to square root 24. Okay, carry on. So 12 minus 4 square root 2. So the square root, this is 3 square root 4 square root 3. Minus this can be broken down into 4 times 6. Okay, so 12 minus 4 square root 2 plus, it becomes, we have a 3 times, the square root 4 is actually 2, and square root 3, and square root 4 again, it's a 2, and we have square root 6. And then it's 12 minus 4 square root 2 plus 6 square root 3 minus 2 square root 6. You can't add or subtract anything any further because you got all different, there are different terms, there are unlike terms, you can't simplify it further, so that is the final answer. Now there are two kinds of rationalizing. So for example, you have something like 3 over square root 5. We do not like square roots, we do not like surds as our denominators, so you multiply top and bottom by square root 5. And then we have 3 times square root 5 at the top, and square root 5 times square root 5 at the bottom. So that is technically square root 5 times 5. And square root 5 times 5, we know that's 25. So what we have is 3 square root 5 over square root 25. And we know that square root 25 is just 5. So it's 3 over 5. So 3 square root 5 over just 5. That's the answer. The last kind of rationalizing is the trickiest, because if you have something like, let's say you have 4 over 1 minus square root 2. Now, unlike this one, you can't just times the top and bottom by square root 2 or the whole expression. What you need to do is you need to multiply the whole expression, so this whole expression, by 1 plus square root 2. So you do the same thing, you're multiplying it technically by the same thing, but you need to remember to change the symbol. So if it's minus, you make it a plus. If it's a plus, then you make it a minus. So, and then you just expand them. So at the top you have 4 times 1 plus square root 2. At the bottom you have 1 minus square root 2 times 1 plus square root 2. So you expand the brackets, you get 4 plus 4 square root 2 at the top. And at the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1, and then minus square root 2, and then plus square root 2, and then minus square root 2 times square root 2. And you have 4 plus 4 square root 2 at the top. And then you have the minus square root 2 plus square root 2 gets cancelled out. And you have 1 minus, so square root 2 times square root 2 is square root 4. And square root 4 is just 2. So it will be 1 minus 2. So therefore you have 4 plus 4 square root 2 and everything divided by -1. So technically it's -4 minus 4 square root 2, and that is it. Always remember that if you have a number, a square root multiplied by the square root itself, the square root is like, as a power, it's like half. So you have a 2 to the power half times 2 to the power half. So technically when it's like that, you can add the indices. So half and half is 1. So that's why it's just 2 to the power 1, which is just 2. Okay, so that's why when you have a square root 2 times like the same square root, it's just a 2. So if you have square root 5 times square root 5, it will be just 5.